This is my Sekiro art project where we create the arm for Sekiro. Here we have Michelangelo's. Here we have about Michelangelo's proportions, and this is the top right drawing is a drawing by Michelangelo depicting the human body. This drawing shows the person is the same height from arm to arm as the same as toe to head. And it also shows approximately they are 6 heads tall. This one is important for game design because when creating characters you want to know the proportion, and it's in the standard T-pose for creating a character design, how they would normally look before they get animated. The drawing at the bottom right is called Koshi. This depicts the human muscle anatomy. This is useful in game design because you'll be able to design a convincing model of the human body by using the layout of the muscles in this drawing. And here we have it depicting it, that is roughly 6 heads. The art piece top right called Love Letter was drawn using the rule of thirds. You can clearly see the way the painting is laid out, that it is in 3 distinct parts. The first segment is a water damaged wall, the third shows a woman receiving a music lesson, and the last segment shows a chair and curtain. It can also be going from top to bottom, with this being 1/3, this being a third, and this being a third. The drawing on the bottom is I couldn't find the name for it, but it's using the golden ratio, which is this spiral here, and it's showing the path that the eye will follow when looking at the art piece. You start off looking at the bottom corner, go up to the ceiling, down to the bottom, and into the woman's hands. Here we have the rule of thirds, and then the golden ratio. We go round, down, up, and spiral round. Here we have here we are looking at Leonardo da Vinci, and we're looking at perspective. The first piece is perspective to draw your eye into Jesus in the middle. This shows that the figure in the middle is the most important as your eyes are drawn into the character. The linear perspective is useful in game design because you're able to draw your ideas of the layout of a map for a game, as well as a focus point on concept art. And it will align the linear perspective, whereas line is used to create the look and feel of 3D space. Here we have the perspective where it's going down into Jesus at the middle and across similarly. Here we have my drawings for perspective. The drawing I did was a little wonky, could have been more straight, like the piece in the like this piece. Here's my drawing for composition. Again, it looks bad and could have been done and could have been better. The lines were off. The lines were wonky. The ball doesn't look shaded enough. Here's my drawing for proportion. Again, it looks horribly off. The ears are all wonky. The proportions aren't right. Here we have life drawing for hands. First one is a screwdriver. Again, I think it could have been better. Then we have life drawing with hands of scissors and holding a knife. I'm unhappy with the outcome of the hands as I got the proportions off. The biggest problem I have is the fingers, as I'm looking either too fat so they look like sausages, or too thin so they look like those chocolate fingers that you can buy in the shops. If I were to redraw this, I would improve by measuring the length with a ruler or other measuring device. This should at least help with the fingers being the wrong shape. Differences between primary and secondary. Primary sources is when you take your own photographs or use a reference in front of you for a particular object that you draw or paint from it. Whereas secondary is where you take someone else's drawings or photographs as reference for your own drawings. Both of them have advantages and disadvantages. Advantages of primary sources is that you can look all around the object, feel its texture, and take photos of the angles you want. Disadvantages of primary sources is if you don't own or are unable to come in contact with what you want to photograph and you're unable to draw such a model of that thing. Advantages of secondary sources is that you're able to see and use photographs of things you may not come in contact with, such as lions, other exotic animals, planets, etc. This makes a catalogue of items for references have been vastly grown. Disadvantages of this are that you are unable to feel the object or look at it from all angles or feel its texture. Here's my primary example. I've drawn out this photo of my Shoto Todoroki pop vinyl. I used Copic markers for the colour and black lines. If I were to redo this, I would be more careful around the nose, as unfortunately the black seeped over and covered up the shading I put there. I've redrawn the Shoto Todoroki pop by using digital media. This is what I prefer to draw in. It's got more tools available, and if you make mistakes, it doesn't ruin your project, as you can remove them with a few clicks of a button. I prefer how this one has turned out because than the other one, because the shading has been kept and it looks a lot nicer, though the hardest part to draw was definitely the flames and ice, because they're slightly transparent in the photo, so it's hard to convey that in this drawing. For my secondary, I have copied this drawing of the Pokemon Squirtle. I used the application Paint to do this. Unfortunately, it looks quite pixely, so I have redrawn this on better software. The software I used, majority of the drawings, I used a software called Fire Alpaca, but there are a few that I use on Paint. I'll point out which ones have been done on Paint when I come to them. So this is a redrawn of Squirtle. I think it looks a lot better than the original, but I think I should have added some shading on it, as it's a bit too flat and 2D. If I were to redraw this a third time, I would add some shading, but the part I most enjoy are definitely the eyes. Okay, so all of these drawings here were done on Paint, and these are my examples of digital work which are drawn on Paint. I've drawn Pikachu, Charmander, and Bulbasaur, and then I created my own Pokemon from using what I learned. For my coloured markers, I did Squirtle, Dratini, Morpeko, and Morpeko Hungry Mode. For my watercolour pencils, I've done Charmeleon and Wartortle. For my acrylic paint, I've done Gigantamax Eevee, Pikachu, Gigantamax Dreadnought, and Gigantamax Meowth. For my mixed media, I did digital and colour pencils. So I drew Sobble for this, and I drew it out on the digital first, printed it out, then used coloured pencils to colour it in. For my second, I did the digital and acrylic, and I chose to do Score Bunny. This piece was again drawn out on digitally, printed out, and then coloured in with paint, acrylic paint. And lastly, for my last digital media, my last mixed media, I did a digital and Copic markers. Again, they were this is Grookey and was drawn on the computer before being printed out and coloured in. Light is used to help create depth in a drawing as well as create focus of a light source. Here's an example of some using light to create shading. Colour. Colour can be used to draw the eye to a piece as well as portray certain emotions, such as green being envy, red being anger, and red speeding up your metabolism to make you feel hungrier. That's why majority of food chains use red, such as McDonald's and KFC. Shade is used with light to create depth in 3D drawings in 2D space. The primary colours are red, blue and yellow. These colours cannot be made from other colours and are used to make every other colour apart from white and black. So the secondary colours are orange, green and purple. These colours are made by using a 50-50 mix of both paints of primary, so red and blue, or blue and yellow, or yellow and red. And the tertiary colours are made by mixing the secondary colours with the primary colours. This is the 12-part colour wheel. This was done with acrylic paint. And going from the top, we have red, red orange, orange, orange yellow, yellow, yellow green, green, blue, blue purple, purple, red purple. This piece of artwork was created for one of the Overwatch anniversary events for the game Overwatch. This artwork gives a sense of awe as you look at it. The colour scheme is mainly black, purple and gold, as well as a few highlights of other colours like blue. The gold and purple contrast each other, clashing of the light and dark. It's a large theme of the lore of the game, and this poster reflects that. This is the path that your eye takes when looking at artwork. Start off at the top corner, going down Forest Blast, up Mercy Staff, down Widowmaker's Grapple, and across Winston, Lucio, and so forth, going down, up, and up across the last beam. This piece of artwork can convey multiple emotions. The girl in the painting could be feeling sorrow by covering her head with her hands to cry, but she could also be embarrassed, trying to hide her embarrassment. She could also be scared and trying to make herself seem smaller and trying to hide. The method that was used to make this, this is an old photograph of painting with dots rather than full blocks of colour. This helps with the feeling of distress. For my final piece, I've influenced by Attack on Titan, so I want to make the arm look as if the arm is from the game, a crossover with a different property. The original idea was to make an arm based off Pokemon, that's why I did a lot of different Pokemon drawings. But with throwing Sekiro style Pokeballs and the three starters of the original game being Squirtle, Charmander and Bulbasaur, but looking realistic. But seeing that Pokemon is made for children and including the game with lots of blood, it's made for adults, would not really fit. I then thought about crossover with a popular TV show from Japan, as a company makes the game is based there, and the game is set in Japan. They had a few different ideas for shows, but ultimately went for Attack on Titan. I chose this show as it's popular in Japan, it's made for adults and older teens, and the characters most often use a sword to fight. This was the best fit for the crossover, as the game and show are both made for adults, and using parts of the show to create the arm and abilities. Here's my mood board. I've got Slastic on the top, and going down, across, up, across, down. I've got Sekiro, Sekiro's arm in game, Sword from Attack on Titan, Sekiro and NPC, and then Eren. For my concept of the arm, I'm influenced by other Japanese cultures. To start with, I'll make the arm look like a torn and worn scouting uniform from AOT. The blade would be at the end of the hand. The blade would be at the end, and the hand would look like a guard as the hand is holding it. But the blade will be protruding from the wrist. In the show, the blades are flexible and sharp, and I will incorporate this into the gameplay. But because they're sharp and could easily for your enemy, I'll make the blades, like in the show, will break if you use them too many times. Maybe around 2 or 3 hits. This will make the game will still be balanced, and it will do a lot of damage, but will be quickly used up, and Sekiro will be able to carry 2 extra blades at a time. The reload will be 1.5 seconds, so the player can't spam using the sword. So the secondary ability would be called Titan. When activated, Sekiro will cut his flesh hand, so not the army design, but his normal hand, and he'll grow to size of normal NPC characters. By cutting the flesh hand, it's also referenced in the show when Ymir first turns into a Titan, cutting her hand with a knife. There's a lot of references to the show in here for any fans that may want to buy this. When activated, the ability will create Sekiro to grow to the size of a normal NPC. As in the game, he's quite shorter than others for some reason. He doesn't grow too tall. It's just to represent him turning into a Titan. He will have his attacks will be more powerful, but he will be slower and receives more damage from behind. Referencing the weak point for the Titans in the show, the back of the nape. The transformation will last for 3 seconds, so for that time you can attack and defend. It'll take a minute to recharge, so you won't have to you can just keep powering up. The final piece will make the arm look realistic. The arm will have the scouting uniform sleeve torn and ripped with a green bandage, referencing the green cloaks they would normally wear in the show. And this is my sketch for what just happened? This is my final piece draft sketch 1. This is a rough sketch of what I want my final piece to look like. I want the arm to have the blade attached to it. I want the bandage made from the scouting uniform cloak. I want to include a drawing of the broken blade and the transformation process with an explanation. The sleeve of the jacket should be torn and dirty with holes. This is my final piece draft 2. This is the design for the arm. The arm will be covered in dirt and blood. The badges on the shoulder will be torn and faded, with the special abilities activated Sekiro to grow to the size of other NPCs and receive a buffing attack, but will receive more attacks from behind. This represents the Titan's weak spot in the show. Not only would it be challenging, but it's also a nice Easter egg for the fans. The DLC will also include some new voice lines that will hold Easter eggs and references to the show. These lines will include, when low in health, I could really use a steamed potato right now. This is, of course, a reference to Sasha's love for food, and first time we meet her, she's eating a steamed potato during the recruitment process. Where if they're AFK, they start to hum the theme tune for a bit. For a little bit. Which of course is a reference to the theme tune. Where if you enter a town, makes it like I hope I'm not walled in. This of course is a reference to the city that everyone lives in, with it being walled by 3 massive walls to keep it safe from the Titans. If you activate the ability, then they potentially could say something like, I thought it'd be more theatrical, where's the other lightning? This, of course, is a reference to whenever someone transforms into a Titan, there's always a massive lightning strike that hits them. And when attacking, they could say at least have to aim for the nape with you, of course, referencing the weak spot again. And that's just to name a few. Here's what I can do for improvements. I think I'll have to remove these Sekiro X Attack on Titan DLC armor and shorten it. Show a bit more visual of the attack method. The background works. Work on the blade and moving the arm so that it starts in the top right corner. And fill in any dead space. Here's my final piece, design 2. I've changed the look for the arm to make it fit better the style of Sekiro. The arm has now a torn sleeve and the green cloth bandage. The blade is longer to fit more of the blade in the show. I've also drawn the blade broken and how it looked discarded on the floor. The arm is covered in blood and mud, and also improved the silhouettes of Sekiro. Here it is in greater detail, being larger. And this is my new final piece, where I've added an example of the ability. I've changed the blade lines to just be dark grey to show shading. And I've got an example of what the icon could potentially look like, as well as in a better title. And I've also, this is, when I was on Paint, I did a little bit to show how I would have drawn in Paint. Of course, when I'm drawing on Fire and Packer, it's largely the same, but with different software where I'll be able to utilize layers. I start off by doing a rough sketch of what I want in colour, such as this. I just chose pink. Then after that, I would use line tools to create the outline. Then I'll remove any of the pink background by erasing it on this, but on Firepacker I'll just delete that layer. Put on some base colours, add shading, and then I will have the finished product. Thank you for listening.